been fighting a long time, and we have all lost so very much, so many loved ones gone. But you are not alone. There are pockets of resistance all around the planet. We are at the brink.
Welcome, everybody. It is that time of the week. It is time for your weekly SITREP. I am Aaron Sampson. I'm here with my co-host, Russ. What's going on, Russ?
Doing good, buddy.
Doing good. Yeah, man. It's been another blessed week. And what is it? January the 4th. So this is SITREP for January the 4th of 2023. First SITREP of the year. And we're here. unless you're not on the Gregorian calendar and you're following, the Hebraic calendar, then just pause this and wait for about 3.5 months and then play this back, because then it'll all kind of line up for you guys. I've been seeing a lot of people talking about that. Well, this isn't really January. I mean, which I understand. But it is funny. I mean, we live in a society that is centric to the Gregorian calendar and a whole messed up calendar and everything. And I can understand for biblical reasons and for signs and seasons reasons, to why to pay attention to the biblical calendar. But you don't live your everyday life based on the biblical calendar. It's like the people that use Hebraic names on Facebook. I'm not going to call you by your Hebrew name. It's silly. It's almost like cosplaying. Like you're cosplaying an Israelite. I don't know. It's funny. I get people where they're trying to go with it. To me, it's way overdone sometimes. We live in Babylon, guys. We don't have to follow the way Babylon does things, but we do. We have to be a part of this society that we're involved in, but we don't have to be of it. You know what I mean? We don't have to be invested into the way Babylon does its workings. But we still have to be a part of it. You can't just be like, it's no longer January as the first month. It's that's how everybody does things. So I don't know. What do you think about all that, man? You gonna change your whole calendar and how you view everything? Are you gonna? You decide not to go to work on Monday because it's not the first day?
It'd be a good reason. Definitely be a good reason. No, man. No, I don't see what any of that matters when it all comes down to it. When it comes down to it, our Messiah is going to return whenever he's going to return at his appointed time. So it doesn't really matter what we think when it's all said and done. That's just distraction, which we have plenty of that these days.
Yeah, no, and I 100% agree. I think this is why Jesus said, no man will know the day or the hour, because everything is so twisted and off. It doesn't matter if you believe in the Tartaria, the whole timeline's off. Even just looking at the seasons as it is right now, I can look at the seasons and tell you a couple of years ago, even 10, 15, 20 years ago, I'm 40 years old now. I remember growing up and where I was at in northern Indiana, it would snow every October. And kids couldn't do, Halloween and stuff because there was ice storms up there. Of course, we got lake effect winter from Chicago, but now it doesn't start really snowing until December, and it goes all the way into April now. It's if you keep compounding the days being off for so long, it would, and I did the math for it the other day, and it was about 200 years. It would be 200 years before you noticed. And, our ancestors 200 years ago didn't leave us really any signs or clues about what the weather pattern was in spring. You know what I mean? We just lump it all into global warming. The reason why the changes are wrong and different is because of global warming. Maybe it's because we're counting days wrong, but I don't think anybody's going to be able to figure it out because we're 2,000 some years off. I think we can figure it out by the signs that are coming in the seasons of when the time frame he's going to be. But I don't think until, either the two witnesses come back and tell us how to do everything right, or the Messiah returns, we go, oh, that was when it was.
Right, exactly. Yeah, that's I don't know, man. We're in a place that something that makes me wonder every day where we're actually at, and where we're headed. Um, yeah,
That how you really feel, Russ?
yeah, that's how I really feel, man. I'm spent when it comes to some of this stuff.
No, I feel you, man.
Um, it's just mostly, emotionally draining. It's just too much stress sometimes. We've got from what's going on in DC or what's not going on in DC. Since I can't make up their mind on anything, you get Trump flip flops on us every day. Who knows what he's doing? Seems like he's basically retired at this point. Um, everybody's sitting around waiting for something to happen, and I think we just need to be gearing ourselves up as warriors for Christ. That's all we can really do, because waiting on all these fence sitters that have no real plan is not doing it. So,
Did you see, Kanye's running for, or wants to run for president. And he
well,
wants to change his name to like, was it Yaler or Yitler or something like that?
who knows? Have they even found him? I thought he
I
was missing
don't know,
today.
dude. I don't know, man.
Brittany. Oh man, it's been a real crapshoot.
Well, yeah. Well, dude, I mean, can you imagine him like going up to do the presidential debate with a black bag on his head? Like, I mean, really throw everybody for a loop, just like,
Well,
what is happening?
what messed with me about that whole thing is, he helped to expose all that stuff with Balenciaga and all the different. I don't know if you saw the books and stuff where they had all these people that dress in all black garb with the black masks and everything, and they have all these pictures and stuff of them sacrificing children and eating children and stuff. Then there's pictures and stuff of his wife dressing their daughter in this black robe with the head covering, and she's in a black robe with a mask and head covering, and then he shows up dressed like that. And I'm like, so you happen to have one of these suits at home, but you're not part of it? Like, it's just absolutely insane. I mean, the political landscape is a mess. Um, I've been trying to help people focus and build some confidence in themselves so that they can do stuff locally. Um, I've got a guy that goes to my church, and he thought a couple of years ago, he thought, maybe I should get into some local politics. He realized very quickly that in order to do that, he needed to get rid of a Facebook page, because that's just disaster. And then he realized also that he presents in a certain way where he's only going to draw a certain crowd. So he ended up pushing his wife to run, and she got elected. She's one of our county commissioners. Um, and that was just, a couple of people that thought, hey, maybe we can run for political office. And I mean, you're not going to change DC.
Right.
It's here locally. And I think that's what a lot more people need to get on board with is, when you look at the ballot, there's only one people running in most of these fields, which means that they're not running at all. What's competition if you're the only one running the marathon?
Right.
I mean, it's
right.
You show up, you remember to cast a vote for yourself, and there you go, you're done, you're in.
Yeah. I suggest people with cool last names to run. Because when I went through it, I was like, these two people are actually like this, they have the same last name. They're married, and one's for counselor, one's for this, and they didn't have any other options. But the people that had cool names, because they didn't have any, Republican, Democrat, whatever. I'm like, I like that person. I like that person.
I'm out there. Johnson. I don't. That's not a cool last name.
Everybody, but see, you look, man. You wouldn't even have to do any advertisement. They're like, I think I heard of that name before. I'm going with that guy.
Is there a president I can relate myself to? That's how Eddie Murphy did it in Distinguished Gentleman or whatever. He had the same last name as another guy that died. Put his name in, and bam, automatic congressman.
Kelly said the mayor of the town that I'm in. Sampson is the mayor. Can you imagine?
I can't.
No. I don't like babysitting the people that I have to do in training classes, let alone what I'm going to have to do as I'm moving forward. I got to babysit a whole city.
Well, it makes you wonder, when you hear about like the mayor of a town being a goat or a cat or something, everybody thinks that's cute and stuff. Is that so that they can do a whole lot of corruption in the background? And they're like, I don't know. He's running the place. I don't know. I mean, just turn him into lamb chops. I don't know.
Did you see that thing I sent you about the New Zealand Prime Minister, like basically passing abortions all the way up to like full term?
Carte blanche.
Yeah.
Carte blanche on that. Yes, it was a la carte abortion. How do you want it? When do you want it? Do you want it with ice cream? That was insane.
Yeah, and it was,
That was
I mean, it's basically, I mean, this, this is something that, I can't, I had it on the tip of my tongue. The lady who founded Planned Parenthood was originally,
Margaret Sanger.
was it?
Margaret Sanger.
Yeah, Margaret Singer. Yeah, I mean, that was, eugenics was her big thing,
Oh yeah.
and it was originally founded because she didn't like black people. They,
Jesus.
they leave that out of their pamphlet, their
No,
pamphlets,
just
but
socialist feminist that was indoctrinated and started moving that indoctrination into other parts of life and what her practice was. Um, you just need a crazy person with a little bit of power, and people do not stop them.
yeah.
I mean, that's come a long way. It's
Well, and then it went as far as what the thing that the video that I was watching was talking about. You could choose boy or girl, where if you didn't want a boy and you had a boy, then just abort it,
oh
right?
yeah,
Yeah, and
oh yeah.
it was like any genetic defects up to a cleft palate. Like this is a
Oh,
common surgery. Yeah, Down
syndrome.
syndrome. I mean, we go from this whole inclusive environment of the ultra left, right, to let's accept everybody regardless of what they are, whether they want to be a cat today or whatever. And there was language that was removed that we used to use as kids all the time. You can't say the R word anymore. It's almost as bad as saying any other derogatory term, if not worse. And that's all been pushed in the schools. No bullying, no name calling, all this kind of stuff. But it's perfectly okay to abort them. I don't see what's like the hypocrisy is what drives me nuts. I mean, we see this all the time in these political spheres. It's like, watch what this hand's doing, but we're going to do something completely, the opposite of what we're saying. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, it's well, that's where we're at, man. I mean, it's the days of Noah. I mean, that's what it said, and I wonder if that's not what we're really close to at this point, because I would have smited us,
Yeah, no
or
kidding.
be ready to smite us. Um, it's I was listening the other day even that you know the even the first churches, what they say, 30 years after the death of Christ, that even the first churches were coming against Christians that wanted to follow Christ opposed to follow some of these Jewish doctrines and stuff. I mean, it started turning. And so, not that he perfected everything while he was here. I mean, he perfected salvation for us, but the world was still a horrible place when he left.
Right.
We think of that almost like a starting point, like everything went to ground zero and started up from there. I mean, it didn't. But this makes me wonder how bad was it then compared till now. I mean, I know they had the Roman Empire and stuff going on, and so you had a lot of corruption and evil and eunuchs, which is something they're trying to bring about again. When you castrate a child or sterilize a child, you have a child forever. Um, so, but it's just kind of interesting that even the church was persecuting, followers of Christ from day one, and I mean, we're probably going to see some more of that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, a lot of people, when they look at the Inquisition, there's a lot of groups that like to claim the Inquisition or claim, things like that. Like, oh, they were attacking us. Really, what they were persecuting was the true Christians. It was the Roman Catholics who were going in. You didn't follow exactly. You were following the laws of God, and if you read the book by if you could read Hebrew or you could read the actual scriptures for what they were, well, you weren't going to the church. And you were a Satanist and into witchcraft, and they would torture you until you admitted to it. I mean, it's pretty crazy stuff. I do want to jump on here real quick and just say hi to everybody in the chat, because I see everybody's they're chatting it up. Mama Sampson's in the chat. I see Ark Builder, her good buddy over there. How's it going, man? CCMC, Karen C, Kelly Joe, Kelly Jelly, Taking Back Eden. I think there was one more that I saw. Karen C, I think I said that one. Yeah, everybody's taking back Eden. She's filling up the chat. Got all kinds of scriptures. I did see. What did she say? Let's see. Oh, somebody said something about the government. If we all obeyed, we wouldn't need the government. I would say probably not. I mean, when we look at the original foundations of government was actually given to Moshe, to Moses, right? When he was taking the tribes out of Egypt, there were so many people, and he was trying to take on so much that I think it was his uncle approached him, or was his father-in-law or something like that, and approached him and was like, maybe you should delegate everything out by groups of 100, by 10, by, and kind of set the framework up for the governmental system. But the problem is we don't have a governmental system where the people are in control anymore. We, it's all like that George Carlin thing. Like, he used to say that all, in his specials was like, it's a big club and you ain't in it, like I love that thing, because that's the people in the government we argue left and right and all these paradigms and stuff, but these people are playing this whole game, and they all go out and they play golf together and they have coffee at the same location. It's different from politics in other countries. You see some of these politicians in the UK, they'll fist fight on the floor. You know what I mean? Like, we don't see, and you'll see even in local things where you have councilship meetings and town hall meetings and things like that, and people will get violent. You don't really see that, because everyone knows these are all buddy, Republican, Democrat. They're passing through bills and stuff like that. They're shaking each other's hands behind the closed doors, and well, let's get this through. I'll put some money in your pocket. You'll get some kickbacks for this. It really has nothing to do with us as the people anymore. It's not a government for the people, by the people. It is a group of elitists who they're catering to their best interests.
Yep, it definitely is. But here they're all on one team. They just pretend to be right and left, so they continue to have people pulled apart, have people that are ready to hurt each other or harm each other based on their political beliefs. It's the same reason with all these sports teams. You see people turn over a city because their sports team won or their sports team lost. It's the same mentality. It's a tribal mentality. I wish more people would step away from it, because it's hard. It's hard. But what you need to do is you need to look and see, are the people that you believe in, the people that you trust, are they saying the things that you believe and that you trust? Because half the time they're not. They're saying what's going to get them elected again, right? Because this is a job for them. It's about people pleasing more than it is about peace. Peacemaking. It's peacekeeping, and they're going to say what they need to get elected. If you actually stopped and listened to them, most of them are not saying what you believe in. Oh, I'm a Christian conservative, but I'm pro-abortion. Well, you cannot be both of those things at the same time.
Yeah.
You either value life or you don't value life.
Yeah. I saw in the chat, Taking Back Eden said, "Is the Pope Christian?" And I mean, as a fruit inspector, I would say absolutely not. What the Pope represents, some Jesuit order with some form of the pyramid, like some brick in the pyramid. They are definitely designed to do everything they can to give you a religion outside of biblical Christianity. Now, do I know Christians who are like dedicated, devout, wonderful Christian people who just don't know any better, who are Catholics? Absolutely. But do I think the Pope is? No, not from fruit inspection.
But at the same time, what kind of bothers me with stuff like that is, so say you're driving down the road and you're doing 70 miles an hour in a 30-mile-an-hour zone, and you get pulled over, and you tell the cop, well, I didn't know it was 70. He'll tell you right off, ignorance of the law is not reason to break the law.
Yeah.
So how does that apply within your faith as well, within your religion as well, that ignorance is, you're turning a blind eye to these people. It's on the news. It's everywhere. If you don't know that the Catholic Church is corrupt and doing some pretty wicked stuff, you're lying to yourself. You're turning a blind eye to it.
And this is coming from an ex-Catholic, right, Russ?
Oh, definitely. Well, I saw many people that wanted to post that, Pope Benedict passed away. And, I hope, God has a special place in heaven for him. Well, he's got a special place for somebody like that. Heaven? I hope not.
Dude, that guy, you could.
It's not. Dude, that guy was part of the Red Shoe Club.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, here's the one thing. So, when does a pope become no longer the pope? When he dies. Why did he become no longer the pope and St. Francis or Pope Francis stepped up? Well, because he stepped down. Well, that doesn't ever happen. Why did he step down? Because of allegations which were leading to convictions of some of the stuff he had done, condoned, and hidden within the church with some of these bishops and these other people with child molestation and rape and murder and stuff. And they gave him what do they call it when you can used to be able to run to a church and claim something in order to
Asylum.
be able to, yeah. So they gave him asylum within Vatican City, and so he's lived there up until the time he died. Now you're a Catholic and you don't know any of this.
Yeah.
No way.
You could just
No
look.
way.
You could just look in Benedict's eyes, man. That dude just looked evil. Actually, like I saw a lot of things, and it was pretty straight up. They took a picture of him and then put him like with Emperor Palpatine's cloak over his head, and you couldn't tell the difference between the two. It's like, yeah, like you can see a lot in people's eyes, man. And that dude, neither one
You
of
want
them.
to see somebody that exhibits demon possession or something? Have you seen the four and versus the current pictures of the mayor of Chicago?
Oh
That
yeah,
woman looks like she's straight up demon possessed. She's a very beautiful woman, very beautiful woman, and I don't know what demon is taking her over now. I mean, she literally looks like she could play Beetlejuice in part two. I mean, and I think people are wearing their demons these days. I mean, I think some of these people have given into the certain degree where they're just into so much corrupt stuff that it's just the demons are wearing them like skin suits. Like
yeah.
it's
Yeah,
um
I mean, why hide it
pretty
anymore? Why it's out in the open. It's accepted. This is why I mean we've said this many times in the show. God is taking the gray away. Like there's no place for your everyday church pew sitting Christian to sit in the middle and say, I'm just going to sit here and chill on the fence. Like evil is
right.
becoming more in your face and out there. And Christians are like true Holy Spirit, hearing Christians are being pulled more towards walking away from the things of this world and walking away from sin and drawing nigh to the Creator, right? Moving closer to His laws and His ways. And you're seeing this. I mean, we're seeing like Christian churches, Sunday Christian churches that are picking up, taking on the biblical feast days. They're kind of, they're kind of in the middle, right? They're still like, well, we still have Christmas and Easter, but now we're going to start doing Shabbat, and we're going to start, like we're going to have some Shabbat services. We're going to have Sukkot. We're going to have, Passover, and it's cool because that's where a lot of us started. Like we weren't really sure, but we wanted to test the water. We want to see what this was all about. And once they start getting into it, I know the last time we did Passover, not this last year, but the year before, we had no, I'm sorry, it's 2 years ago. We had a big show up of like 60, 70 people, and several of them were pastors. The next year we did it after that, they all of them didn't show up because they went and did their own. And I was like, this is the best compliment. It's like we cooked all this food and everything, but we had less people because now they're going and doing their own Passover. So we're seeing a lot of people that are shifting. I know a lot of people like to throw the church under the bus, but it's difficult for me to broad stripe an entire group of people, just like the Christians do to the Torah observant groups or whatever. So we have to be careful about that, and we really have to be individual fruit inspectors when it comes to each one of these groups, pastors, parishioners, the people who are brothers and sisters, and let's look at their fruit. Right? Let's not look about what they say. Let's look at what they do, and give them patience, right? Because God was patient with us. Like you said just a little while ago that I think it was perfect. Like if you were God, you have already wiped us all out. Thank Yah for His patience, because absolutely. Because if I look down on the creation, it'd be like squish, you know what I mean?
Right.
But He loves us enough to give us the time to get right. And we just have to be patient with our brothers and sisters because they don't know yet. A lot of them have been fed milk for a long time. They're just big fat babies. And they need some meat. They need some good discipleship. They need somebody to take them under their wing and say, hey, follow me as I follow Christ, just like Paul did.
Well, that's something I talked with a buddy of mine at church the other day. Is he said, okay, as you're bringing people into the congregation, how do you bring in people that are so in love with sin and so in love with this world that they're anti-church, they're anti-God? But as the Spirit starts reaching out for them and they start listening and they start turning away from this world, and you bring them in, how do you feed them the milk that they need while still giving steak to the congregation that yearns for steak?
Right.
Because it's a very hard balance. I think our ministry does a very good job on giving stories that everybody can understand, while at the same time calling out the men and stuff in the church and saying, hey, it's time to put down childish things and step into your position. But it's a good question because, like we talked about before, my whole experience coming into the church was this one where the focus is salvation, where every church wants to save people and for the glory of themselves, quite honestly. I mean, if you're doing it for God, then salvation is the first couple steps. If that's the end goal, then you're not doing it for God, you're doing it for yourself. But they want to focus on salvation, and as soon as they've saved somebody, then they're like, well, there you go, you're good. And that's equivalent to saving the little baby duckling and then dropping him back off in the field. Like, he's going to get eaten by wolves, he's going to be a snack for something.
Yep.
Because you have to teach him how to fly, you have to teach him how to grow up, you have to teach him how to find food and water and shelter and all these things. And that's the same way with a Christian. You can't just give them a little bit. You have to teach them, well, how do you walk in the faith?
Yeah.
What do you do when you confront sin again? Because the world's going to pull you back into sin. How do you refrain from sin? How do you fall deeper in love with God? How do you, and a lot of those answers can just be by going to your scripture. But to just give somebody a book and tell them to read it, I'm the first one right here that's guilty of that. Does not work for most people.
Yeah.
Especially if you don't enjoy reading. I mean, or if you have problems comprehending where you read it, but you can't figure out how to apply it. You can't figure out what this means to you other than a bunch of words strung together. I mean, reading your scripture, that's going to help you grow in many ways. But what do you do in the short term? And I think that focusing on bonds with brothers and things like this, where you can have some accountability, where you can have somebody that you can call, that you can trust. I mean, how do you save people in an AA meeting? You set them up with somebody that's already been through the walk, that knows what they're going through, that's further down the road, that can look back and say, hey, are you still coming? Are you still coming? And reach out a hand and say, hey, come this way. Don't go to the left or the right. Continue down this narrow path and keep coming towards me, because I'm headed towards the voice of God. And I mean, that's the way they do it with stuff like that. Why we're not doing it in the churches. That's what we need to focus on, is building those bonds, those friendships, becoming family with people.
Yeah. And no, you're fine. You're fine, Russ. And you've actually been working and doing this in your local church. Let's talk a little bit about, because I think you brought a good point up when you were talking about like kindling the fire, right? And you were talking about how there were all these men in the church that have been going to this church for 10, 15, 20 years, whatever, and they barely knew each other. And you're like, I'm the first guy to come in and bring this in and be like, hey guys, let's all, go to somebody's property and shoot guns or have a meal and hang out, right? Let's expand on that a little bit.
Well, I presented it like a question because it makes me wonder, and I kind of am in disbelief that that's the case. It's like you showed up to start a fire, and instead of having to build it from scratch, you had all these smoldering embers that are all just ready to turn into giant blazes for God. But then for whatever reason, they have this self-contained passion. And it's like, you throw a couple new logs on the fire and suddenly you have this roaring blaze. And that's what I feel when I talk to some of these guys, because I was talking to one of them the other day and I said something about, one of the things we all have in common, nobody was interested in playing golf. Nobody was interested in playing sports or doing anything like that. They all said that they owned guns. They all said they liked to shoot. And I'm like, hey, that's fine. We can go shoot the stink out of something, or, go to a range or whatever. And just, so I mentioned to one of the other guys and I say, hey, this one guy, we did a get together at his house last year and he's got a range and this and that. He goes, I have a range at my house. And I said, okay, well, cool, maybe we can do something there. He goes, I have a grill too. I have a big pellet grill, wood pellet grill. It's real awesome. It's huge, And I was like, okay. He's like, my property is not real far from here. We can have everybody come there. He's like, we're a little early in the season for that, but And I was like, I could just feel his passion, that he was just like, pick me, bring everybody to my house. Let me show them my stuff. Let everybody come and hang out at my place. And I'm like, well, I mean, and I get that, because ultimately, what's the reason why you even have a piece of property or have a piece of land or a house, or you fix up your backyard or whatever, is because you want to do stuff with people. The person that wants to be a hermit in their house, they're not putting a deck or anything on the back of the house. They're not building a fence or a pool or anything. But the person that does do all that, they're doing that because they want to bring friends over and they want to share it with people and stuff. And so, but I could feel his passion, that he's like, yeah, bring everybody there. We can all talk, and we can eat some steak, and we can get together and we can, talk about the Lord and stuff. And I'm like, well, we should be. We all should be. And we should be doing this regularly to where it's, to where people ask us to do other stuff. And they're like, hey, I'm having a family cookout in 2 weeks. And you're like, sorry, I got plans. I'm hanging out with my brothers. And, I mean, that's something we should be doing. We should be actively doing all the time. And within that, some of this other stuff will start to work itself out, because when you're hanging out with other like-minded people, what you're not doing is all those idle hand things that are going to get you into trouble. If you're hanging out with all your friends that smoke weed, if you don't smoke weed now, you're going to be smoking weed before long. Maybe not. It's not for everybody. If you're hanging out at a bar, you're going to be drinking. You're going to be taking home people. I mean, this is the thing. It's a social setting. So if we're hanging out with like-minded Christians and we're going camping with them and we're doing canoe trips with them, we're shooting with them, we're having dinner with them, like, your mind is going to be so full of spending time with your brothers and doing things with these people. And if their focus on a regular basis when they get together is to talk about God, then God's going to be what's going to be the center focus of your life. I mean, to me, it's simple. And it's just one of the big things that's really lacking in a lot of these churches and congregations. I mean, within these first churches, you had mentioned that, they wanted 3 years of somebody coming to a church before you could even be a member. You're not spending 3 years with people you don't like. You're not spending 3 years with people you don't have stuff in common with. You're not spending 3 years with people that talk too much about this or that and just kind of bore you or bother you. Because if that's where you're at, then you don't make it to 3 years. You go back to drinking, you go back to partying, you go back to this other lifestyle. But if you enjoy that company, then you're going to continue to focus on God. And I just think, like, one person might have some great ideas, but a group of people are going to have a movement that's going to be seen by people. And when you're just on fire for God all the time, it comes out of your pores. It's like the alcoholic, you can smell it and sense it on somebody. That guy's doing something different. Something different's happening in his life. And then the trickle down effect to your families. Because if you are on fire for God and you're living for God every day, then your family has one of two choices. Either get on fire with you or get out of your way. And you'll
so they say that 80% of families that have it was a statistic thing that said if the father of the household is a believer, 80% of the families in that will also follow in his footsteps. But if the father's not, this is where struggles start coming in, and it drops drastically. I mean, it's crazy to think about that. Like, there are so many men that have kind of lost their, whether it's been removed from them or they feel inadequate as a male nowadays. I talk about this all the time. It doesn't take but watching TV for a little while, where you watch even kids shows where the kid is like the super smart one and the dad is the idiot. It was the bumbling idiot. And I was raised on stuff like, Al Bundy, the Homer Simpson, all of the parents on, South Park and stuff, right? All of these shows, like growing up, it was like the kid was the genius. This is even like Dexter's Laboratory and stuff, right? And the dad was the bumbling idiot. If there was a dad there at all. And, so a lot of us got that kind of idea, that, you were like the cool kid, whatever. But then as soon as you become adult, it was almost like that Neverland syndrome. Like, you want to stay a kid forever. And now we have a whole generation of kids that won't grow up. I'm seeing them come in all the time. Like and I'm dealing with it. This is one of the things that is really bugging me about, I'm concerned for our future here in the United States. I remember growing up, like, you and I worked at Taco Bell together in the mall. You remember that? That used to be the place. Like, we were mall rats, and you would go to the mall, and that's where all the teenagers wanted to get a job. If you got a job at the mall, you were like, that was it, right? Now you go to the mall, every single store in there has a help wanted sign, and you walk in and it's not teenagers, right? And we worked at Taco Bell. Now, if you drive through a Taco Bell drive-through, there's some 45-year-old purple-haired lady, at the cashier's desk, and there's a 70-year-old person making the food. We were teenagers, man. I was like with that company, I was like the youngest, manager or whatever that they had hired, because I was like a year behind you, and it was like, now you don't see any kids. Where are they at? They say this new generation of 18 and 20-year-olds, they said that 60% of them are living with a relative, whether it's aunt, uncle, brother, sister, whatever. They're living with a relative, which means they have no responsibilities. They have no job because they don't need to pay for things. And I'm like, man.
Well, see, but it's not something across the whole field. I mean, if you go to I mean, unless they're creating them in the back room. If you go to Chick-fil-A's and stuff, you don't see that same ideology there.
No, not at all.
There, you see a completely different thing. And so I think it's environment. I think it's the environment that's being created. And I mean, it's a bit different. See, when we were growing up, the environment we had at home was God-fearing, you know? So it was, you know, whether our parents did everything they should or not, for the most part, they went to church or talked about God. They were in their Bibles. They were interested in that type of lifestyle. So for us to go work at Taco Bell and party with our friends and stuff was the opposite of that. Well, now there's none of that happening. And so I think people levitate, or like, you know, they're drawn towards different places where they can find something like that, that camaraderie, because there isn't any of that.
Right. Well, I think you see a lot of that with Chick-fil-A, because it's known to be a Catholic / Christian organization. And so a lot of Christian teenagers go and work there because it's a safe work environment that has some kind of.
There's a lot of atheists that work there too.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of atheists that work everywhere.
Well, no, I know, but I mean, but even the ones that I talk to that are more in the middle, or fence sitters, or more atheist or whatever, even them going to work someplace like that, they create a team environment. It's a place where you can be part of something. And that's one of the bigger things that's lacking in a lot of things, is when you go work anywhere else, it's not. It's like you mentioned, Taco Bell. It's, you're the cashier. You know, I'm the cook. Not that there's a cook at Taco Bell, but I'm the cook.
I'm the guy that heats it up.
I'm the manager. So I sit in my office and tell people what to do. You know, my job's, you know, to clean and stuff. So that's what I do. And it's all compartmentalized. You go to most companies and it's all compartmentalized. I mean, even the company that I work for, when I came in, it was all compartmentalized. And they have all these stupid reasons for doing that. Like, well, it'll cut down on gossip. It'll cut down on this and that. No, you know what cuts down on gossip? Having a team mentality. When people feel that they're part of something and there's something bigger than just the job, and that for you to talk bad about somebody and you to slander somebody is not part of it, that hurts the team. Yeah. You're hurting everybody that's here. You know, so you build a team mentality, and you suddenly start realizing that you have a few people that don't want to be part of the team, and those people work themselves out. They stop doing the job. They're not serious. They continue to gossip, and everybody else gets on board with the team. You need a team leader for that, though, first. You need somebody that's going to step up even to upper management and say, like, this is a team we're building here. We want everybody to be on the same page. We're all working for the same goal. If the customers is the goal, then we're taking care of the customers, because if not, nobody has a job. You know, I mean, that's what I feel. That's the main reason I stay at the company I'm at. It's not for the pay or anything else. It's because we've built a team mentality there, and my team works hard for me. They have a lot of good things to say about me, and I'm hard on them. I'm nice to them, but I'm hard on them. I let them know when stuff needs to get done and how it needs to get done, but I also give them the skills to do it.
Right.
Instead of just yelling at them.
Well, this is another thing I learned about the generations thing, and they it broke it down from like generation, the greatest generation, into the baby boomers, into Gen X, into the millennial generation, then Gen Y, then Gen Z, and the alpha generation. Right. It kind of breaks it all down. But one of the problems one of the things they were talking about with this newest generation of workforce that's coming up. What's that?
The newest generation, Gen A.
Yeah.
Gen A.
This newest generation that's joining the workforce, which is what now? I don't even, Gen Z, whatever. It's past the, it's
Gen A.
Well, that's like my kids are the alpha generation. So it's whatever's in between the two.
But it's anywhere from there into what like 17 or something now, I think.
Yeah, I don't know. But
we're a hell of a lot older than you think so.
But the one thing they said was this generation, they would have 30 jobs before they settle on a career. And a lot of them, they were seeing they will quit a job. Like, I would never quit a job until I had another job lined up. But they will quit a job without having anything lined up or any prospects for a new job. And they also said they had no brand loyalty. Like, they had no loyalty and it didn't matter if you had team environment or not. They just had no brand loyalty. Like, if they didn't, the way that they communicate was different. Like, they didn't want face-to-face communication. They wanted more text-based, as you would have somebody like a baby, like a boomer. They wanted more face-to-face because, I mean, this was the different generations, how you handle the different people. It was just interesting to see how this newer generation is interacting with things, because it is kind of shaping the way that businesses are running. And it's going to be real difficult as we move forward. Because you're not having anybody that has any loyalty. nobody wants to work, and I think they're literally
there's no accountability.
right.
Is one, and there's no they spent their whole life in front of a screen. All their interactions have been from the other side of a screen. So that's where the whole issue is to begin with. On that is that, when you communicate and all your friends and everything are all online, you've never met them. This person lives in California. This person lives in Europe. This person lives here. This person lives there. You've never seen them outside of a VR headset or a game chat room or whatever. Then you're going to get more and more of that, and you're not going to want those social interactions because they make you feel uncomfortable. Whereas when we were in school, grade school through middle school, that was your opportunity right then to get used to social interactions, because you were either a popular person because you were good at social interactions, or you were more of a recluse or a geek or whatever because you were not good at those social interactions. And now the social interactions are, a very short period of time at school, and all based on stuff in a chat room. I mean, because all these kids, don't they all go into these chat rooms and stuff to talk about their peers and stuff? So you get ridiculed at school, you also get ridiculed online.
Right. Yeah, I'm, they put a nice glossy cover over it, said we don't do bullying, but now it's just moved to cyberbullying and anonymity bullying, where it's, yeah, absolutely. Because you don't know who's attacking you, because back in the day, somebody want to say something about you, you hashed it out in the hallway. You know what I mean? I'll take my
nobody recorded it to replay it online later.
Right, right. Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, or you go viral for, beating somebody's head against the locker. That's not how it used to be back in the day. But, there's a lot that's changing. I remember listening to a guy who was talking about this generation of children that we're raising today. They have slowly eroded different things. And he said this next generation, because of things like Alexa, things like, everybody's posting what they eat on dinner. Oh, hey, I'm taking a poop, I'm putting it on Instagram. They said that this next generation will have, we as the generations before them have completely eroded away the idea of privacy. We knew what privacy was before, but we gave it up. Now the generations that follow us have no concept of privacy because they never started out with it to begin with. So now everything is online. Alexa's listening to everything you say. Your Siri is listening. Facebook's listening to everything you say. Google's listening to everything you say. And people are, you can only go look at Instagram and see that they don't hide much on Instagram anymore. Everything. Right. You might as well just take your camera and walk around while you go pee and, eat your dinner and everything, because that's what we're moving towards. But did you ever watch the movie Ready Player One?
No, I didn't see it.
It's a pretty, I think that's what we're moving towards. Like they want, you've literally had people what's his name? Jeff Bezos, that's talked about he wants to build like these cities of basically the size, these little homes, the size of yeah, like the containers that are on the back of a trailer, right? Yeah, all these build these small homes, and they want to build everything virtually. And now you have an entire group of kids that are now turning into adults that don't want to work, and everybody keeps in the background pushing this universal income, right? And that's what's going to end up happening and then once you get universal income pushed, then nobody's going to want to work because there's no incentive to work. There's no incentive to do a new good. This is how they push socialism and communism.
Well, they keep talking about how these robots are going to do the work for us. That's what part of this Bitcoin and stuff like that move to this digital currency is a way to pay these robots for doing tasks, because they'll literally be able to be mining Bitcoins and things like that while they're performing tasks simultaneously. They'll be able to literally make their own wages. So I have no problem talking for hours and hours about all the problems, but what about some solutions to some of these things? Because if we're not coming together as a community with ways to change this, then we're just sitting here talking. It's like watching, The Matrix and going, okay, so what did they do next? Okay, they did this. And what did they do next? Okay, so when do we get in our pods and become batteries? We're just walking towards a post-apocalyptic future. What do we do to change it, though?
I think we should pick kids in our neighborhood and bully them. Bring back bullying.
I don't necessarily disagree with that. Oh wow, what it is.
No,
because then there'll just be a video of us online bullying kids.
I really think as men, like the best thing that you can do is lead by example. And
Right.
if we are leading by example, living in our Torah closet so that no one can see it, then it's you're not really doing the full aspect of discipleship. We have kids. Most of us have kids. Some of us have older kids, whatever. But I look around at my kids' friends and I'm like, one of my son's close friends, his father passed away, and his father and his mother were in the Torah community that we were involved in. And so he's had a lack of a father figure for quite some time. And I like to step into that role and go and play with them and have talks with them and chats with them and stuff like that when I can. But I want to expand that more, right? The only way that we can counteract what the images that the TV portrays for them of what a father is to walk out being a father, right? Like show them how to be a good father, how to do this, do things with them, spend time with them, talk to them, mentor them. And I think it just goes beyond our own children. This needs to be our children's friends. This needs to be people can just be brought into your life. This can also be other men, younger men. Like I'm 40 years old now. I don't feel 40, right? I still feel like I'm in my 20s, right? But this can be other men. I get lots of people brought through, my kind of scope of viewing. And a lot of them are younger guys. And I'm like, hey man, call me. Let's talk about these things. Let's do whatever. You guys ever need have any questions with job related? Cause this is my door, right? Several people have been talking about planting seeds, right? If I have to use my opportunity to open a door at work so somebody can contact me and I can start building a relationship that way, that's how I'm going to do it. But I have learned that showing by example, especially in these training classes, is how you get somebody to do it. I can read it to them. I can make them read it. We can watch videos, but if I stand there and I gather all 8 of my class, my trainees, and I do it right in front of them, they will almost always, without question, be able to do what I did. If I give them an example and say, here's what it looks like, you guys go do it. And that's what we need to start doing. Like all of these things, all the ways that we're walking, that God has called us to be different than the world, we need to walk it out loud. We need to walk it where it's visible to others. And it's really hard because there are so many people that want to. I saw a comment about the church, somebody, I think it was Jason, our good buddy Jason on here, but he said something about the churches like leading a lot of people away. Well, it's both intentional and unintentional. It's intentional because when you're following the desires of man, it's going to take you away from God, right? And there's a lot of churches that do that, but it's also unintentional because people were not trained properly. The whole concept of discipleship that we've brought up and talked about several times now has gone out the window. We literally, like in a church environment, the church puts a guy up at the podium, and if he does a good job and tells them what they like, he stays. If he comes in and tells them they're not doing a good job, they throw him out, right? We got to get somebody else, bring a new person in here. But they lift somebody else up and say, you walk it out for us. And then it doesn't, anytime you say, no, maybe you guys should start walking out yourself, they're like, you know what? This pastor's not really working out. That whole model is meant to, to churn people in and out and stuff like that. There's a lot we could talk about it, but it does not mean that every church is bad, and does not mean that church doesn't have a purpose. There are a lot of people that are exposed to Christianity, exposed to this walk their first time. I came from the church. You came from the church, and I bet most of the people that listen to us here at some point or another came from the church. If we hadn't had that exposure, if my parents didn't go to a church, who knows where I would be right now? You know what I mean? Like if they didn't follow that, to where its ultimate conclusion was, which was, ultimately, casting away the things of like Christmas and Easter when I was about 10 to 12 years old, well, then I wouldn't have started walking down this pathway to where I am now in trying to be more Torah observant and more biblically minded, and not be more of a secular Christian, So we have to accept the church for what it is. It's meant to bring people in, to nurse people for a little while, and then it's supposed to elevate them. But I think that's where it stops a lot of times, because when you have babies, they constantly need you, and that's the way the church model works.
Maybe that's the answer to the question I was mentioning before that the guy at church had talked to me about is that maybe the church isn't supposed to be providing state. Maybe the church is supposed to be focusing on salvation. Maybe the people in the church are supposed to be sharpening iron against iron and providing stake for each other.
Yeah.
And maybe the pastor's job is to get up there to some degree. Now he should be holding to accountability, but maybe his job is to get up there and preach the good news, and it's the rest of us that need to be stepping up and helping to put together the Bible studies and do the outreach and challenge each other to do more in the community and
Yeah.
within our churches.
Well,
Because
I do think, see, I think we've overemphasized the position of the church as to be all things, right? Like when you look at
right,
the first century church, or who Paul was writing to, Corinthians, Philippians, or, like you saw the Roman church, like that he was writing letters to, he was writing them letters. And one of the things he tells one of the churches is get off the milk and get into more meatier things. He's telling the church that, right?
right,
So what he's saying is you the new people that come in, they need to be fed milk, and then they need to be weaned off the milk and put onto meatier things. The church should be continually elevating and moving forward and progressing, but then they have a group of people that helps the new people come in. Not the church is the gateway for milk, and then it's everybody else's responsibility to eat meat. It's the other way around. Is the way it started out, right? You had people that brought people in and started counseling them and bringing them in, and then the church continued to grow and go into meatier topics. So I think it's kind of a little bit reversed,
okay.
but that may be something, to look at. Like,
But that's kind of hard to take a lot of these churches and what they're doing, because a lot of them, like the one thing, I used to think a little bit differently about this, but I've come to understand where they're coming from. Is if your goal is to come in and change the way a church does things, like you're just going to mix it up, that's church shopping. You're going to, oh, I found this one that I like, or I found that this, oh, the 9 o'clock is too early for me, but this one has an 11 o'clock service,
hey, now
or,
I'm feeling attacked.
but I mean, that's what it is. Because if not, then you're going to keep jumping from church to church until you find one that, checks off all the things on your list, like all the different things you agree with, all the different things you like and care about. And then if your understanding of scripture changes, then what? You go to a new church because, well, this church just doesn't understand the new things that I learned that God showed me. And so I understand that, like, that's not the purpose of going to a church. It's for community and stuff like that. And they're doing things a certain way because this is what they do. This is what they've established. This is, their belief structure and their doctrines and stuff that they've established. Maybe there's some room for some growth and stuff over time, but you're not just going to come in and turn a church that's a Sunday serving church into a Saturday
Right,
church.
right.
It's
The best
so
thing to do, like I've done this many a times when I go to a new church, we get invited to a church or something like that. Or we go to a church function or something like that. And of course, everybody brings pork. You guys, I don't eat pork, right? And so I'll be like, hey, that smells delicious. But because somebody will be like, here, you want to try this? You want to eat this? I'm like, no, it smells delicious, but I don't eat pork. And that starts to, like, I don't force it down anybody's throat, but or I wear zeets. Or my favorite one is, our logo from that we stole / borrowed from, the Through the Black guys, with the pentagram, with the blood marks through it. I'll wear that to church, man. The looks that I get, I'm looking like a Viking walking in with, a pentagram with blood slashes through it. And people walk up like, do you know what that is? I'm like, yeah, it's the blood of Jesus going through, that it's taken, it's crossing out the sigil of Satan, this pentagram or whatever. And they're like, oh, but it opens the door to have these conversations. That's why I want to really get back into designing the t-shirts and put some really catchy images and stuff to draw people into that conversation. And some of them might be slightly offensive to people, but you have to be ready for that conversation. Like you have to be like, why are you wearing this? Why are you doing that? Because I want to be different. You know what I mean? Like everybody wears a cross, in the Christian communities, like they always confiscate our stuff, right? Like you get the occult that takes the cross and flips it upside down. It's like, why not take their stuff and then make it offensive to them, with the blood of Christ on it or something. I love those concepts. I like through the black, and I'm glad that they came up with that image. But I think we can do, the best way we can go into a church if we're called to go in and be a part of that church. For one, we need to listen, because usually God's calling us in there to teach us something. We don't know everything. Right. And a lot of times when we plateau on a certain thing, then he goes, hey, Yeah, you've done really good on this, following my laws and things like that. Now I want you to go learn from the Christians how they love one another. Like, and you're like, oh, but I don't want to go over there. But well, that's the next thing you need to learn. Like, let's move over there and do this. Go back to your first love, right? As it
Right.
was the Church of Ephesus, right? With Roman or not Romans, it was Revelation 2, where it says you've done all of these things and you've weeded out all these people and you're doing a great job, but I have one thing against you. You've forgotten your first love, right? What it was like to be a believer when the love that you had and the abundance of understanding that you had of all the forgivenesses that, all the things that you used to do, and now you've been forgiven of them and you've lost that. And all your focus has been all on this. Let's cast out, let's be the watchman on the wall, right? That's where I'm adamant about. Like, there are times when I go into the Christian churches and I see everybody hugging and embracing and everybody's loving on each other and there's a community there. I saw this in a mosque. I don't know. I've told
Right.
this story on here before, but I saw this in a mosque and I'm like, but we can't do it, right? We can't even get like that because we can't get three people in a room that are Torah observant to agree on what name we should call Jesus, like without somebody wanting to fist fight. You know what I mean? Like, we got to get better about loving each other. We got to get better about building community and kind of get everybody on the same page. And I think we're navigating towards that. A lot of people that have come into these communities and have stirred up a lot of problems have kind of found their way out. The rest of us that are serious and adamant about following, God's laws and trying to be walk the best way that we can while walking His way. We've continued to keep doing that, and we continue to keep going in that route. But the more and more I walk this way, the more and more I have love and compassion for those that are just getting called or those that are trying and struggling. I don't want to bash people over the head, like I want to love people. And I want to see that for other people. I want to see that compassion growing because, like Paul said, if you do all these things or have all these things and you don't have love, you have nothing, basically, in a shorter version of synopsis. So,
Well, one of the other things is a lot of the stuff you started talking about to begin with helping this young kid that doesn't have a dad and stuff like that. It sounds more a lot of along the lines of like challenging each other, like setting goals and stuff, and setting things for us to challenge each other to do. Um, to go and help people and to go and make relationships, and build bonds and stuff with brethren and with strangers or with whatever. I mean, that kind of leads me on some of the stuff we had talked about before that maybe we should talk about a little bit. Is some of the things we want to do moving forward this year and kind of bring into the show and stuff. Like we had talked about doing some man on the street type interviews
yeah.
and different things, and just kind of trying to make little movements and stuff, help to open people's eyes, help to bring in conversation or start conversation with people. Because I mean, that's the only way you get people to think is present them with questions and ideas and stuff that they haven't entertained before. Most everybody sits in an echo chamber these days. I would imagine our kids are doing the same thing with being online. You're sitting and looking at the same things every day. You're listening to the same people every day. And there's not a lot of thinking. There's just a lot of, yeah, I want to be like that guy, or I want to be, friends with this person, or whatever. I mean, there's so many leaders today that are not necessarily leading anybody down a path except destruction. But so many people are following. Anybody on TikTok has followers, or
Or
Facebook
you
or
already have,
anything.
Andrew Tate or something like that, like these people like that men emulate because they're like, that's the kind of masculinity I want to be, even though it is like, that's almost like a faux alpha male, right? Like,
Right.
it's
Yeah.
like, it's this portrayal, this mask of an alpha, like he's cosplaying an alpha. That's my
Right.
new
Well,
term.
yeah. Well, and that's something that's been happening for a while. I mean, people have been LARPing life for quite a while. I mean, you got everything from Antifa to these people that spawn up and go to Black Lives Matter rallies and all these other things. I mean, you even have it on the right side. You have people that are part of some of these other groups that they're just out there to cosplay real life. Oh, this group's marching with guns. I want to be out there marching with guns. Well, do you know what they believe? Do you know what they think? Are you like minded with them? Well, no, but they're out there marching with guns, so I want to be out there. I mean, it's the same reason why people take people to these drag queen story times and stuff. Well, I want to be nice, and I want to be part of the community, and I want people to like me, I think that's the heart of it at all is people want to be liked so badly
Yeah.
that they want to be part of these other groups and stuff. And, you know, if you're loved by the Father and you know your place in this world, that you know that he loves you, then you don't need the love of man. You don't need all these other people to like you and love you and adore you. You know, quite honest. And if you follow Christ, what did he say? He said they're going to hate.
Yeah.
They're going to hate you for loving me. They're going to hate you for walking like me. So if you're not being hated, then you're probably going too much with the grain.
Right.
But I mean, I think, you know, like we'd mentioned before, we should maybe talk about some of those things that come up. Even ask some people in the chat and stuff what they'd like to see with some of the stuff for the new year, and try to mix up the format a little and bring in some new segments.
Yeah, let's do that.
Maybe
We'll give them a few minutes because we're gonna go to break real quick. We'll pose the question to the chat, guys. As we're kind of building some formats for the show and bringing you guys some new content and some different stuff rather than just hearing two guys in their living rooms chit-chatting, which we enjoy doing because we would do this anyway. So we just want to bring you guys in as part of, because, you know, I've always said that SITREP isn't myself or Russ or Ian or Daniel. SITREP has always been about bringing people together. And I think I've always felt like the people that watch this show are people that God has called to be leaders, right? And that's the whole point of SITREP. But SITREP was about bringing information from the front lines back to the leaders, right? So that they can distribute it out to, you know, the people they need to. And I've always felt that way. And, you know, guys, you guys are a part of this show, and we want to know what you guys want to see with SITREP. So now you've got a few minutes as we go into our commercial break. Think of some things that you would want to see change with SITREP, and then bring them back in the live chat, or post them in the comments, the comment section below the video. And we're looking at adding some different segments and some cool things and some outreach and like the man on the street stuff. Russ and I kind of talked about this just to give an example. Like Russ was like, hey, I want to go out and just interview people right now. It's kind of cold, but probably more towards the spring and catch people walking around downtown or something like that. And then just interview them and ask them. I think your first one was like, you know, like just to give an example, it was like, hey, how do you feel about, transgender people reading books in public libraries? And then get their answer and then say, how would you feel about a pastor reading the Bible at that same public library? And then just kind of get them to think about that, because nobody's ever posed those questions side by side. And we would like to see what people see on that. Because that's something that's actually came up in the news here recently about a guy who was going to his local library and reading the scriptures from there. Or there was another one of the guy who went in and was preaching the scriptures while the guy was trying to read the transgender was in there.
Showed up at a drag queen story hour. Yep.
Yeah, so we're going to cut to break real quick, guys. Hang tight for just a few minutes. Think about some things that maybe you'd like to see, that maybe you watch on other podcasts that you'd like to see brought over here, or our take on a different aspect you'd like to see dropped into the show. So we're kind of mulling over some things and maybe even expanding the days we do shows, stuff like that. So we're kind of looking at a lot of different aspects. So we'll come back and pose the question after the break. But stick around, guys. We'll be back in just a minute.
Child sacrifice. Barbaric. Evil. Ancient. Modern. There's nothing new under the sun. Throughout history, children have been sacrificed to a variety of deities in attempts to gain favor or blessings. Aztecs cut their children's hearts out to appease the gods of rain and war. Incas sacrificed their children to the sun god so their crops would flourish. Canaanites sacrificed their infants to Moloch for prosperity. Drums were played loudly to drown out the baby's screams. Child sacrifice never stopped, and we still don't hear their screams. There's nothing new under the sun. We sacrifice our children today, not for rain or war victories, but for freedom or convenience. We sacrifice to gain favor in the workplace, or for the blessings of money or fame. We sacrifice our babies on the altar of free sex. Child sacrifice is no longer a public event. It's done behind closed doors. Rather than a gory burning or bloody stabbing, it's become a neat, sterile, and clinical event. We don't throw our children into the fire or leave them to freeze to death. We starve our babies. We poison them. We rip off their arms and legs and crush their skulls. We call it choice. We call it empowerment. And our culture condones it. We celebrate it. We celebrate baby murder. We consider it vital to our existence. It's become a right. But nothing is different. There's nothing new under the sun. Innocent human beings are still being sacrificed for the selfish gains of those more powerful. Modern child sacrifice is thriving. We must end it. End abortion.
All right, and we're back, guys. Thank you for sticking around the other side of the break. Again, that video that I just played, it's one of the, I don't know, most kind of, I don't even know how to explain that. When I watched that video for the first time from choicefor2.com, it definitely explained the whole abortion aspect in a way that I understood it from, my perspective. So, choicefor2.com is something that I like to direct people to, for something to support. They also, that video you can be found on their YouTube channel, if you guys ever want to share that out. But it is a very sobering, commercial, but it is something we were touching on that topic today. I thought it would be a good commercial to play. So, but we are back. Russ is back. You good there, man? You good?
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah.
Your camera angles, they just keep shifting and changing, man. It's like,
I know they're changing. I'm trying to figure it out. I'll have a better camera and stuff next week, and some headphones and stuff. Better mic, so I don't sound so echoey and stuff here in the background. Just kind of trying to get, still get adjusted. Yeah. So it was definitely something where it was, we talked about doing this, and I'm ill prepared, but if you see the way I do my life, I'm always ill prepared, but I don't know.
It ends up working out.
Yeah, it seems to. I'm still here, 41 years later,
right,
alive. I don't know. Kid seems healthy. Wife seemed happy. I don't know. Doing something right.
Yeah, I feel you. By the grace of God, we're still here.
I was just say, don't ask them their opinion. They may or may not agree. But,
yeah. Speaking of which, you've got a little one that's going to be due here pretty soon, right?
Yeah. Here on the 22nd. Yeah. If due dates meant anything these days, unless you schedule a C-section. But
right.
Mine will probably be a couple weeks late. I'm hoping. I don't know. Maybe it'll come early, but I'm hoping that I still have 3 or 4 weeks.
Right.
Might only have a week or two.
And you go through and you're using a midwife and stuff, right? Rather than going through your standard hospital practices and stuff.
We tried to go that route the first time. Just like with anything else, there are good midwives and there are great midwives. I wish the medical industry wouldn't come in and crush that a long time ago, because had they left well enough alone, a midwife would be the standard practice. It would be somebody that's much more in tune with you, your body, your overall health, and trying to just kind of help you, mentally, physically, for the long term, but then is also there to help you have your baby in a comfortable setting, where you can actually labor and go through the motions as God intended, actually having a child. The medical industry is about making that moolah, and you get me started on that. That's a whole episode right there.
Right. Yeah, that's no kidding. We both have our parts to say about the medical and pharmaceutical industry, because it is an industry that it's rough, because you can't go either way with it. If it's not a private industry, it's ran by the government, and they're regulating it, which is what we see in Canada. And people are not getting operations in time, and they're dying, or they're just saying oh, you've got a toothache. Have you tried assisted suicide? That's the kind of stuff we're hearing out of Canada. So, the private industry is built and designed to make money. It's not not for profit, and it's not ran by the government. Some aspects of it.
I would say that we have the worst of both worlds, where
Yeah.
we have a government who is running an industry from behind closed doors. Because the stuff that happened with Obamacare that moved us into this globalization of the medical industry, where you saw places like Community and stuff come in and buy up all the private industries and force them into this new conglomerate, and it happened. There was a customer we had that had a private practice, and she was up there by Community North, and Community North, they first bought the strip mall that she was in. Well, the first they came and propositioned her to become part of their practice, to leave her private practice and join the community network, which is such a euphemism for what they actually are. They're going to call themselves community, and that's the least thing they're concerned with. And then from there, she said no, she declined. The doctor that was on the other end of the strip mall said yeah, and he left that. They brought him into the community, made him change where his main practice was into one of their buildings. So next thing they do is they buy up the strip mall she's in. Well, then we can't raise her rates or rent and this and that because there's legal things that allow us to do that or not do that. So what they say is, well, we're going to remodel this strip mall. So you have a little bit of time, but we're eventually going to need you to move your office from this end to that end. Well, to move a practice, you know what it costs to move a practice, even a couple doors down? $10,000 or $12,000 is what this cost her. She was doing stuff where she was allowing people to come in, and she had clients 20, 30 years. If they couldn't pay, she'd put them on a payment plan. Where can you get a payment plan from a doctor? That doesn't exist. That's not a real thing anymore. And so then they eventually told her, hey, you got to make this move. And so she had to actually pull out a loan to be able to pay this like almost $12,000 to move to the other end. And then they again propositioned her with joining the community program. And she again declined. And so then they told her, well, you're going to have, it was not even a year later, you're going to have to move again. We've decided to sell the strip mall. It's actually not going to become part of our stuff. But they knew that the whole time. They were fixing the strip mall up to where where it would be worth more money. Everything was pristine and back to the way it could be or should be, so they could sell it off. That was their plan the whole time. There's no way you're going to convince me of anything other. And the end result was stress and everything else. This woman died. She's gone.
Wow.
She's gone. Her practice ended. All her patients gone. Most of them had to join the community network because that's the only option in that area. And guarantee, it's ridiculous. It's like I said, we could do whole shows on the medical.
Yeah, that's no kidding.
Whole shows on midwifery. We could do whole shows on a lot of this stuff.
That's why we have the show and 2.5 hours to to vent anytime we need to.
So,
yeah, I did want to pose the question to everybody in the chat. If there was something that you guys, I love everybody in the chat, but I know it's like as soon as I ask a question, everybody like clams up. But if you guys have any suggestions, something you guys would like to see, if you think the man on the street or doing more outings, I would like when we're going to be doing Passover again, depending on when our new daughter comes. Depending on when that's going to happen but I want to start doing lives and stuff, what the best I can, because some of these are campgrounds and stuff when we go and do these, to try to get more focus and get more people involved, with, Passover and Feast of Tabernacles, or, what was the new one? We were doing the camping for, it's Pentecost, not Shavuot. Is it Shavuot? No, it was for Pentecost. I'm spacing the name. I'm sure somebody's going to correct me in the chat, but so there's a lot of ideas that we want to bring to the table. Some of the other things, I was really wanting to move forward with pushing some stuff for like Simple Street in Indianapolis. Then we had, of course, everybody knows about
the coat Feast of Tabernacles.
No, it was. Because we did the camping for Sukkot last year, but we want to do it for the little camping trip we did for. I just lost it again. For Pentecost. So, but with SITREP, when we were partnering up with Simple Street, And then of course everybody knows we lost Joel. They're still kind of doing, their kind of stuff, but it's really hindered a lot of their being able to spread right at the moment. But it doesn't mean that we have to stop. I saw Rick come in, and Rick's a friend of the family's, and he's a friend of ours that has struggled with disabilities and a lot of things. And he's like, I would like to see that people in the community would come together. And it's what we're called to do, is take care of the widowed and the orphaned, and people who are who have difficulties. And I would like to see something done with that, rather than just. I mean, I think we invest so much money into things that we probably don't need to, you know what I mean? And if we could get people to pool $2 and $3, we could, do things like, I had this idea for a thing called, what was it? Yaws Blankets or something like that. And where we go and we just have people donate blankets and jackets during the winter time, and then go and take those out. And, the only problem is, like, I want to do it, and then I want to film it so that people know that we're doing it. But then I'm on that aspect. Like, I don't want to film people who are homeless, and I don't want the glory for taking jackets and blankets to people, like, pat me on the back. 'Cause I don't want that. I want people to know that when they're investing in something, they can see that it's actually doing something. So we'll have to kind of work around that, because I don't want to feel, I don't want to feel like I'm handing somebody $1 while I'm videotaping it and put it on Instagram or whatever and be like, look at me, I'm helping the homeless. I want to be able to help people, but I want people to know that that's what we're doing. So we've got to navigate around that. You know what I mean?
I think that's the message behind it. And I think that, here's the thing. There's going to be a certain group of people that are going to think you're doing that regardless. And in this day and age, it's all the message behind something like that. So, you could easily sum that up by having an intro or something at the beginning that just kind of explains what we're doing, and that we filmed this, and we want our community to participate in it with us, especially if people, contributed and stuff and want to actually see the act being played out instead of just hearing that this thing happened. For me, that's what it is, because, you're going to have a certain group of people that are always going to be down on everything you do regardless. And they're always going to be like, they're always going to say, the left hand knowing what the right hand's doing, and they're going to call you out biblically and this and that. But it's your heart that Christ
Right.
is.
I'm more concerned about, like, there's passages in the scriptures which, when he's directing this towards the Pharisees about, like the people that go out and they do things so that other people can see it, and it says that you get your reward, right? Like, that's not where my heart's at. You know what I mean? Like, I want.
Right, but your heart's not there, and that's what Jesus over and over again says he judges you on.
Right.
So I can't see how within this day and age, because in that case, what happened if somebody else filmed it? What happened if I followed behind you and I filmed secretly, and then it gets out there? That takes away your gifts of glory in heaven because somebody else showed what you were doing.
No. So what we're saying is we need somebody to follow us around when we do this and videotape us.
Over in a van.
Yeah.
A van for fun with some.
Mama Sampson jumped in and she said it was Shavuot. Yeah, it finally came to me. Thanks, Mom. Shavuot is what we did for that little camping trip we did that one weekend. And that coming up, hopefully I got to look at where it falls on the calendar this year, but my daughter's coming sometime end of April and May, and that may fall right around that same time. But I would really love to do that camping trip again. And last year we only did it with a few people. We had some of our local friends that showed up, and they really enjoyed it. And I would like to open that up to a larger group of people to come and bring their families. And we had a great time. It's kind of like a mini Sukkot kind of thing. We had a blast with it, and got to really have that community aspect of it. We wanted it to be bigger and have more people. The whole campfire, like everybody was parked around the entire campfire. We were out there singing and having a good time, sharing and praying for each other. And that's what we need. We need more of that. And that's one thing that I would really like to demonstrate for people. Because I want to see other people do it too.
I'm looking at these days here and stuff, and they all take place in probably about 6 months out of the year, which still leaves, 6 months of not doing anything. So maybe we can use those as a starting point and stuff, but it'd be nice to start maybe hosting some events and stuff, where we can bring people together in a similar setting or something. Yeah. You've got a place, or we can, we're pretty crafty. We can figure out places where
yeah.
maybe we can have somebody donate or something, a place where we can get together, or set it up at a park or something like that, and have some people come and I'm willing to travel and stuff like that. So it doesn't always have to be here in Indy. We can do stuff, in some neighboring states. As long as it's not Illinois, I'm not going there.
No, not after January 1st.
That's what I'm saying. I don't want somebody to beat me to death and knowing full well that they'll be sleeping at home tonight, even if after they get booked, they get to go home.
Right.
So I can't defend myself. So I won't be doing any of that. But so Illinois is out, but Kentucky, Ohio, Michigan, maybe. We'll see how that plays out over the next year or so. I think they reelected Whitmer, so probably going to be an off one. I would imagine probably in March they'll probably be in full lockdown or something again, masks and all, and can't leave your home. So Ohio, Kentucky,
Right. Wisconsin will drive around Illinois.
yeah, get on a boat, and well, you can't do that if you're in Michigan.
You could go to the dunes, and then we'd have to get a boat that would drive us to Wisconsin, like to Milwaukee or something.
But if you go across Michigan, I mean, you can't take a boat. They were arresting people for going out in the lake with a boat.
Yeah.
So maybe fly a plane. I don't think there's any restrictions. Does anybody own a plane we can use to fly?
We'll figure something out there. But yeah, I was gonna say we'll pose that question. If anybody has any ideas, anything that they would like to see, or they like some of the ideas we're talking about, just give us a thumbs up. Give us that sounds cool. We like it. We appreciate it. Or like I said, leave.
I think we'll probably start talking over the next few weeks. We'll probably start planning something for March. I mean, I'm big on if we talk about it today and we talk about it tomorrow, we talk about it 2-3 weeks from now, we do it never.
Yeah.
So the only way to really start making something happen is just to throw a dart at the calendar, pick a date, and then just start planning for that date and get everybody to start focusing on that date.
Well, and we already had a platform for that, which is what Ian established with the Mission 242, which was you have get-togethers and gatherings, and you invite your neighbors and you invite other Christians, and you have a cookout. We broke out the water. We have this like water slide thing, and we got a trampoline in the back, and the kids had something to do. The parents, we brought out a bunch of tents. Everybody, we cooked out and grilled out. And then of course, when you have a lot of believers that come, they're ultimately going to start talking about biblical topics and stuff. It turned out to be a really, really great night that when we did it here. I know Ian's done it several times at his place in Ohio. But I'd love to do that again. I mean, that's it. It's Acts 2:42, which is, we break bread, we come together, we pray, and that's what we do. And so I would love to see that again, and love to do that again.
We have some nice, not a big piece of property there at the church, but being part of the men's ministry and stuff, that's something that could easily be put together. And they want to do a lot of community outreach and bring other like-minded Christians and stuff together. And it doesn't have to be about you showing up to the church on Sunday, just coming together and worshiping God. So I mean, that's something that if there's some interest, we can start planning it for there. We can do one at your place, or really either. So we'll talk about that some more off here and kind of just pick a date and a place.
Yeah. Let's see. Was there anything else? Since nobody's chatting in the chat anymore, it's like everybody fell asleep. 10 o'clock. Everybody's like, "Man, I'm getting tired. These guys are talking too much." How about you, Russ? Like, what you got on your heart, man? What have you been thinking about?
Mostly just kind of, like I said, just a little worried and stuff about the baby coming, just, the changes and stuff that's going to bring. This week I've got a men's ministry dinner that we're doing tomorrow. So just trying to prepare for that. We're going to be talking about discipleship. A lot of the same stuff we're sitting here talking about, is just kind of, what that looks like outside of actually, I guess historical or more biblical discipleship is building these bonds and stuff. So we're hoping to get a group of men together tomorrow night, eat some spaghetti bolognese, which is going to be amazing. Just break bread and just sit there and talk about what's on our hearts and what we're feeling and what this looks like. Like reaching out to some of the young guys that go to our church and stuff, inviting them out to lunch, maybe the shooting range, getting together and asking some of the other brothers if they need help with their properties. Do they have any trees they need cut down? Do they need any post holes dug or anything like that? And trying to figure out how we can start to build bonds, how we can get together and do stuff and help each other out and just kind of be there for each other.
I got to tell you, I got to jump in on this though, Russ. Anytime Russ says he's going to be cooking somewhere, you have to come. Like my buddy here went to culinary school. I remember even before then, Russ, like two of the 3 meals I know how to cook are from you. Like, as I remember we lived together, you're like, man, this is like the hobo, was it hobo, oh, I can't remember what it was. Sloppy Joe's. Do you remember that?
Oh yeah, he's lazy man.
Oh
Lazy
yeah,
man.
yeah, man, dude. That's I still to this day will make that with that, and there was another one that you made that I still make
I
to
was
this
the,
day.
I was the master of feeding two people for about $33 a week. So that's what it was about, man. It was about not having any money and still wanting to eat. And you can either go buy a meal, every time you go. I mean, geez, you used to be able to go five. If you spent $10 at McDonald's, you were eating a feast.
Right,
Now $10, won't get you a fry and a drink.
right.
So yeah, we did that. We did shepherd's pie. We did the tacos that you seem to like a lot with the crushed Doritos and
Yep,
stuff like
yep.
that. It was all about making a meal that you would eat on for 3-4 days.
But yeah, I mean
Oh,
everything that I've ever eaten from you though, like when you say you're making something, it's like this is fantastic. So if we do an event and Russ is cooking, you guys better show up because he won't let you down. I'm putting the pressure on you now, Russ.
I hear that. I hear that. Everybody likes to do that. No, but I feel really blessed. My grandmother taught me how to cook eggs when I was 5 years old. Most important thing she showed me when I was probably about 8 or 9 was she gave me a recipe book, Betty Crocker recipe book, and said, "Here's the recipe for some peanut butter cookies, and here's the ingredients, and there you go." And she went in the other room to smoke her cigarettes and watch her soaps and drink her sweet tea. And I came in maybe about 20 minutes later. I think I messed it up, and she's like, "What happened?" And I'm like, "It's really salty." And she's like, "What'd you do?" And I'm like, "I think I read a teaspoon of sugar and a cup of salt instead of a teaspoon of salt and a cup of sugar." And she tasted it and she goes, "Yeah, yeah, those are pretty salty." She goes, "Well, what we can either do is we can amplify this batch into about 300 cookies, or," and then she just dumped it in the trash. And I said, "Oh, you threw it away? What do you?" And she goes, "It's just a few ingredients. Start over." And that really instilled something with me about cooking, that you can always mess up and you can always fix it. Which is probably a good analogy to the way God looked at us. He made us and we immediately messed everything up, and he goes, "Yeah, but I can always fix you."
Yeah.
So I went to culinary school for 2 years. That helped kind of refine some of my stuff. I jokingly say, but it's honest. I love cooking for people. It's one of my passions to do stuff and have other people enjoy something I've created. So the main ingredient I put in everything I make is love. It's the same thing my grandma used to put in. And I don't know. I feel blessed because I feel at this point with doing the men's ministry dinner and stuff that's something that just kind of came out of the experiences that I've had in life. And I think God puts you in places and gives you experiences so you can serve. And I've asked my entire life, like, why have you made me a jack of all trades? Why have you taught me I can do a little construction, I can do a little concrete, I can do a little masonry, I can draw, I can build things, I can clean, I can make food, I can do all these different things. For what purpose? To what end? And I'm starting to realize, to serve. That was the answer that I was always looking for and never had. To serve,
Yeah.
to serve my fellow brethren, to serve my family, because that's what he asked us to do. And again, this is coming from a stubborn man that had to be beat with this for a long, long to finally get to any of these conclusions.
Yeah.
Um,
This is why
and
you and I are so close, man, because it's the same thing. We've always been jack of all trades. We've always been really stubborn, and then God was like, "These are the kind of guys that I like," So
Well, and here's what's funny. They always use that. I had a few people, I won't name names, but I had a few people that would go, "Yeah, well, Russ over there, he's a jack of all trades." It was never a compliment. It was never meant to be a compliment. Funny thing is it's one half of a phrase that nobody knows. Jack of all trades,
master
master
of
of
none.
none, but better to be a master of, but then better to be a master of one. Because if you're a master of one thing, it's all you're good at. And one of the guys that used to quote that, he believed that men should know how to mend their own socks They should know how to sew their own clothes. They should know how to cook their own meals. They should know how to clean their own homes. And he also did many, many other things. But he believed that if you cannot self-sufficiently take care of yourself, you don't have the right for anyone to take care of you.
Hmm.
So
that's good. And that's another thing that I know that like Jamie Walden, myself, you, Ian Chadrick, my father-in-law have all had this draw, and there's several other people from the Go Therefore conference that I've talked to of all this draw to want to build and even Sean Griffin from the Kingdom in Context. We've all had these conversations about wanting to build a discipleship program that looks like a conference kind of thing, but it's in the woods. It's all about teaching basic skills, things like, how to build a wall, how to run electricity. Let's do that. Right? Whether that looks like building a barn for somebody. I mean, because the Amish do this, the Mennonites do this. You get 50 Mennonites together, those guys will build a barn and move it a football field away. Like they'll all pick it up and be like, well, I don't like it there. Okay, we'll pick it up, we'll move it. I mean, it's crazy how they work. And it's all about, God has all taken us through these different things in our lives, and discipleship doesn't just, I mean, it's about the centric part of it is God, right? But he's all taken us through these different things and taught us different things so that we could teach others through experience, through demonstration. So a lot of us are gifted in art or in something, and you can demonstrate that to somebody else and take them in as a disciple. Discipleship just means like you are teaching somebody something. You are leading by example. So a disciple is someone who teaches disciples, right? And it's a process called discipleship. That's all it is. And that can be anything from teaching somebody how to do drywall or, helping somebody with something and then showing them a skill. But the biblical aspect of this, when you go to the first century church, they had a commune where all of these people, a new person was brought in. They started training them up. They're like, oh, you need a place to live here? The whole city will come, or the whole group would come together. We'll start building you a place for that you can stay. Now you're a part of the group. Now you're part of this. Everybody pitched in. Everybody helped each other, and everybody learned from everybody else. We got to stop letting the enemy divide us so much that we can't even get together and have a dinner without having, theological, pet doctrine debates. Like we need to be centrally focused on God and his community and his body and act like one body with one purpose. And the enemy uses this division tactic all throughout the world. That's what I love about, the irony of all the people that are like, well, I'm coming out of Babylon, right? But then they cast all these divisions between them and their brothers and sisters. It's like, that is the tool of Babylon. That is the tool of Hasatan, is division. And you might do this and this and this, but you fall right into that trap. Because if somebody is not doing what they're supposed to, disciple them and show them a better way. Don't just get on Facebook and yell at them. Let's say, hey man, I see you're 2 towns away from me. Let's go sit, have some coffee somewhere. Let's go talk about things. Let's go do something. How about you and I go together and we go help at a soup kitchen and we'll talk and we'll hang out. We'll be buddies. Let's talk about things. Let's work things out. Let iron sharpen iron. Let's start working as a community together instead of letting the military tactic of Babylon, which is division, come right between all of us. That's my soapbox. Like I want to see in my lifetime a body of believers from across this country working together to change not only their families, their home life, but their cities. And I think if enough of us got together, we could start changing, like, for instance, the pork and all these ingredients that are in everything, right? Like you have people that like Muslim communities that will go into grocery stores and they'll say, we want a section where there's no pork, right? We don't want all of these ingredients that have all these pork in it. Or they'll go to a restaurant and say, you guys need to give an option. If the vegans can do it, we can do it. Who's scared of a vegan? They barely have enough energy to put their shoes on. Why are companies making vegan options? The Impossible Burgers or Impossible Sausage, right? If the vegans can do it, we can do it, right? But we're too worried about fighting about little things. We can't come together to start making change, and I think that's what we really need to do.
Yeah, I would agree. We need to start making movements in our local communities. I mean, do most people here, do you live in big cities? And if you live in big cities, do you live in small suburbs and small areas in there? I mean, you're kind of in a smaller area down there. I mean, even though you're almost part of Indianapolis, but out here in Newcastle, this is a small community. If you sneeze, somebody knows that it happened. I mean, but at the same time, not everybody knows each other. But it only takes a little bit of time to get out there and start familiarizing yourself with the different people that work at your local grocery store and your bank and stuff like that, and getting to know their names, get to know who they are, to where you can start making a movement in your community. Because if you're living the life, then your fruits are going to shine through. I mean, I'm not sure exactly how we go about coming up with specific challenges, but I think we should have challenges that we push out there to the viewers and to each other and stuff each week, where even maybe we could bring some videos and stuff on here and exemplify some of the challenges that we were supposed to be doing. I don't know. It's it's a challenge in itself to come up with some stuff to do.
I think we just do it, and we challenge people to come do it with us.
There you go.
I mean, that's kind of how I am. Like, I mean, I feel like we're put in a position where we walk it out, and it's funny. We've said this from like our very first shows. It's like I didn't feel comfortable with saying, like Paul said, because Paul was such a great example of this. Follow me as I follow Christ, right? Mm-hmm. I'm more like, follow us as we stumble, trying to be like Christ, like as we're like tripping and whatever, because we know it's not an easy walk. It's not. I know both you and I have been through so many things in this life. It feels like multiple lifetimes. You know what I mean? Like I can look back at different layers of my life, and to me, it's like when I think back at some of my previous, life experiences, it's like that's somebody else. Like I'm having memories of a completely different person, but it's almost like climbing up stairs, right? You get that when you get 13 stairs up, you look down and that first step is so far away. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't even, you're like, I don't even remember climbing that step. You know what I mean? I really think that the way we need to do this is like, we need to just do things. And if nobody else wants to come and show up, then we still do it, right? We just walk it out and we say, this is how we're going to do it. And if people come and they enjoy it and they do whatever, or maybe it'll inspire to do, people to do things in their own communities. But what better way to challenge somebody than to say, hey, look, I'm going to go do this. Like, you guys can come along if you want. You know what I mean? Like,
well, speaking of that, so I did stumble upon this guy the other day on TikTok. And so he said that he has a problem with praying, and especially praying publicly. And he said, but if he didn't do it, then no one else is going to do it. So, and he felt that the Spirit kept calling him and telling him every day, just go and do it. Just look, you don't need to be worried about what anyone else thinks. You're doing this for God. You're doing this for His glory. He is going to be happy with you for doing this. And so he had been doing it for a few weeks, and now he's starting to challenge other people to do it. He goes every Monday, he goes to his local courthouse, and he gets out there and he gets down on his knees and he just prays publicly for his community, for the courthouse, for the people that are making laws, for the people that are, for the police and what they're doing. Just that God's will be done, that justice prevails, that any demonic forces or anything be driven out, that that the people in his community have health and prosperity, and that God comes and rests His Spirit on the center place of that town, and just starts to create a ripple effect from there. And he was like, do it, make a video, stitch this video, don't make a video. He's like, but do this with me. He goes, I'm just asking that everybody just goes, and he goes, if we just started doing this, if everybody just started mimicking this, what are the chances? Like, what's the end result? Like, it could go into something huge. I mean, where you could have hundreds of thousands of people coming together and praying at your local courthouse every Monday, and just this being a regular thing. And he's like, so that's all he asked for, was just if you're going to watch his video, just try it yourself. Just go out there and do it. And he's like, I'm embarrassed, and And he's like, but I'm not embarrassed to be out here praying for God. I'm embarrassed because I'm an overweight bald man that's, out here praying publicly in front of everybody.
We had to find out if he's local. I could go join him.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, if not, I mean, you have a courthouse there not far from you. I have one down the road from me. Um, just go do it, and who knows what could come of it.
Yeah.
I mean, what conversations would come out of just somebody coming up and asking you what you're doing, whether it be a police officer or anybody else.
Right. I know that we one of our viewers. I don't know if she's still listening or not, but she's talked about in Franklin, which you and I are both very familiar with.
Yeah.
In Franklin, it's a very Freemason based city, and I know she's talked about. She lives down there. She's talked about going and doing prayer walks. And I'm like, anytime you come up, you want to do that, give me a call. I would love to go down there and do prayer walks. Just walk around the park, walk around the city. There's a lot of stuff down there that's dedicated to the Freemason, that whole city down there. There's a retirement center there. It's all Freemasonic. So I'm like, I would love to go down there and, walk. There's so many cool ideas that people are getting. They're feeling the Spirit calling them, but they're like, I either don't have a voice to do it, I don't know how to implement it or whatever. But that's what community is about. You may not know how to implement it, but maybe you put it out there and somebody else does. So, I think joint effort, guys, if the Holy Spirit's telling you to do something and you don't know how to work it out or walk it out, put it out there so that the rest of us can start adding something to it and take off with it. And you never know that we are all called to do different parts of the body. We can't expect everybody to look like an eyeball or everybody to look like a hand. Sometimes there's a brain, sometimes there's a foot, sometimes there's a butt. It is what it is. But yeah, I know God is calling people to do stuff. And my challenge is to everybody that is within the, hears the sound of my voice, there's something God's asked you to do. And it might be something that you think is probably the most ridiculous thing in the world, but it goes against everything your flesh wants to do. And you've put it off and put it off and put it off. And he's subtly reminded you and reminded you and reminded you. Go do it. Do it now. Stop procrastinating. Stop trying to, rationalize. Stop trying to, of course, the enemy, as soon as God tells you something, the enemy gives you 15 reasons why you shouldn't do it. God is asking you to do something because he wants to be able to trust you with the little things so that he knows that he can trust you with the bigger things. And sometimes these little things they're completely against our flesh. They're completely out of the ordinary. They're not like anything because the first things that get attacked are, well, what if somebody sees me? What if somebody judges me? What if somebody does it? It's all against like self-preservation. So I know that there are people out there that God has been trying to whisper something that he wants them to do. And they're going, I don't know, but what about this? What about this? As soon as the enemy you hear that word, the enemy comes in and the flesh goes, I don't know if I can do that. It's just one of those things, but guys, do it because there are blessings on the other side of that. There's blessings. The scriptures tell us, don't let other people steal your crowns. Right. And that's not because somebody's actually going to come along and steal your crown. It's because you waited too long to be obedient to the Father. And so he has to go to somebody else to do it. So let's not do that anymore. When God asks to do something, let's do it without any kind of, any opposition. Let's just jump at what the Holy Spirit's asking us to do. And you're going to know what it is because it's not going to be what you want to do. And it's going to go against everything that your flesh wants to do. That's how I tell. And as soon as I know the enemy's attacking me or is coming against it, I'm like, that's definitely God. Right. So guys, do it. And then we want to hear about it. We want to know what you guys are doing out there because, I want to know what the body is doing, what different parts are moving. So, we want to see those praise reports. We want to see and talk about and discuss that because that helps build the faith for other people. There are struggles that people are dealing with. There are things that people are dealing with that we don't talk enough about the wonderful things that God is doing in the body and for people. Everybody just wants to talk about all the bad things the world's doing. You know what I mean? But we want to talk about all the wonderful things that God's doing in the body to inspire people, right? I mean, nobody really wants to come from the world to come to here and then just all to hear about all the bad stuff that was in the world. They already know. They just came from it. They want to hear about the wonderful blessings and the wonderful things that God is doing for us that he's not doing in the world. So let's start being obedient so we can see those blessings and so we can talk about it and we can share them to inspire other people.
Well, Kelly in the chat here said she's still here. She said Franklin's ready for a sit rep. Um, Mama Sampson said she's wants to go too.
Yep.
Why don't we make something happen? I mean, there's no point better. I mean, it's the same thing as, you going and telling somebody, "Oh, I'm sorry that your mom's sick. I'll pray for you." Well, pray for them right then and there.
Right.
That's one of the things I struggle with all the time. I add people to our nightly prayers, but the Spirit taps me every single time and goes, "Don't say you'll pray for them. Pray for them.
Right.
Like,
Right.
pray for them
Right.
right now." What bigger impact you'll have than if you just do it right there and there. So, Kelly, what does that look like as far as what's a day? What's a time? I mean, you're the one that brought this up. Why don't you give us an idea that's something we can riff off of and come up with a solid day?
And Russ, I don't know if you've met Kelly or not, but she lives down there. She stops by here all the time. Her and my mom and my wife they hang out from time to time. So yeah, Kelly's great. So I don't want to call her out if she wasn't in the chat, but she's still here. So
Right, right. So I'm saying, I mean, I'd be up for going. I mean, we're definitely past the what is it? Is it the solstice that we just passed, the winter solstice? So I mean, we're already. I mean, it was still daylight out of 5:30.
yeah,
So I know you get off a little later than that. Maybe it needs to be more like a Saturday thing or something. But I mean, if we pick something, we shouldn't let the weather, unless the weather's just going to beat us to death. We shouldn't let the weather get in the way of it.
yeah,
It's a little bit of rain or something. Bring umbrellas. Bring a change of clothes. Um, I mean, I'm down. I think this is something we should move forward on.
yeah.
I'm being inspired myself to go, well, what does it look like if I start doing something like that here in my town? What if I start doing a weekly walk, um, or biweekly or monthly or whatever, and go ahead and print off some flyers and take them around to some of the local churches with a 3 month schedule and say, hey, we're doing a walk on this day and we're asking people to be part of it. It doesn't, you know, God fearing or not, show up and pray with us.
Yeah.
Because I'll take some atheists. If you want to walk and pray with us, come pray with us.
Right.
I mean,
Well,
what better way?
we've talked about atheists several times. You know how I am. I love to debate, and I've gotten many of discussions with atheists and agnostics.
Every single week.
I've gotten many discussions with atheists and agnostics, and when I actually approach a topic of what they believe and parallel it with how Jesus acted, they're like, well, Jesus wasn't such a bad guy, right? I'm like, so do you have a problem with a God who loves his creation, this and that? Like, no. I mean, like, if there was a God, that's the kind of God that I would want, right? Like, and then I'm like, okay, so what do you actually have a problem with Christianity? Well, the people, right? Like the followers of Jesus, like those are the ones that I have the problem with. If we can demonstrate that Christianity looks different than what people's perception is, a lot of those atheists and agnostics wouldn't have something to point at and say, that's the reason why I don't believe in God. So that's something that I've really wanted to push is this division, all this other stuff that has been out there that's been causing all kind of problems. If we don't show them a better way, they're not going to stray. That's going to be a shirt. I'm gonna make it a shirt now. It's TM'd, guys. No copyright. But yeah, guys, these are the kind of things that we need to do and demonstrate this. Let's walk it out. Let's stop talking about it. I like that enthusiasm, Russ, where it's because I come up with ideas, but I need somebody to kick me in the pants and be like, hey, let's just go do it. Let's stop talking about it. And I love that. So.
Well, same here, and it's one of those things where with family and everything else, you talk and talk and talk about doing something. We used to do this monthly get together with my cousins. We called it Just Cuz, and we'd get together with our cousins and stuff. Well, the problem is you put the next responsibility of getting together on an unreliable person. 2 months, 3 months go by, 6 months go by. That happened a few times. We haven't got together in a year. So, I mean, I guess the few of us that are good to set something up and just move forward on it need to set something up and move forward on it and not wait for the rest of the people to figure out what they want to do or what she's saying every weekend. I'm trying to sit here.
She says she's got warm boots.
Let's see, 10-day forecast. I go to my phone for everything, but I'm streaming on my phone, so that doesn't work. Showers, AM showers. It says AM showers on Saturday, so showers on Sunday for Franklin. I don't know. I was thinking Sunday after church. I could be there about 1:30, or Saturday. We want to get together in the morning. What works for you, Sampson?
Yeah, I mean, because the next couple weeks after that, I got to travel, so
Right,
I'll be all
right.
over the
Well, and
place.
I've got
Yeah,
stuff coming up, baby coming along and stuff. But plus, you put something off too many weeks, and then it's too far in the future for you to really commit to it. Um, I don't know what we can adjust it as it comes up. But what do you guys think about Saturday?
yeah, I'm down for that. Kelly, you'll have to just shoot me a message. We'll put something together. We'll get the Sampson family out there, Russ, and we'll go make some laps around the courthouse.
Because I don't believe I have
Read some scriptures out loud.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Go hit some places. If she's talking about a walk, I mean, walk over that courthouse over there. That's a profiteering scam. Uh, go over there. The one where they actually do the court hearings and stuff now. That one over there by the police department.
Oh
Walk
yeah,
past that place. Walk past the main courthouse. Unfortunately, I have some old experience there in Franklin.
yeah. You and me both.
Back in the day. And that tyrant of a judge that owns part of the courthouse down there or part of the jail down there. I'm still trying to figure out how that's exactly legal, but it is what it is. But yeah, we can go down there. We can walk around the downtown area and just pray. Isn't there like some type of medical center or something down there too?
Oh, well, there's
Is it
the
like
annex. I don't know what's right there on the circle anymore. I haven't been down there for a long time. Mama
yeah,
Sampson said Sunday would be better for her, so we'll have to kind of
Sunday would be
negotiate that.
better for her. Well, the only problem with Sunday is it's definitely going to rain on Sunday. Um, so I'm fine with that. I'm not going to drag my kid out in that rain, but I'll come.
Right.
Um,
Well, we'll make it work. If Mama Sampson doesn't get to come this time, she can come next time, or we'll get her up early in the morning.
yeah, well, you never know what's going to happen a few days from now because the weather is so unpredictable and not worth anything. But we can update. So we can update on Friday and say for sure what day and have everybody. You got a chat and stuff there on the. Is everybody part of the Facebook SITREP group or?
Yeah, most of the people. Yeah, and she's got my direct information, so we'll go ahead and we'll kind of work the rest of
Well,
that
if we
out.
post something on there, maybe we'll get some extra people that want to show up and come.
Sure.
A couple people we can maybe even reach out to.
Maybe we just make a tour, like we go all the
Well,
cities.
that's what I was thinking. I mean, we can go down there for a half hour, an hour, and just walk around and stop at a few different places and dedicate some prayers. And then if Sunday works better, we can either way, or if Saturday works better, we can do this and we can all go grab a bite to eat or something if everybody wants to, and just kind of make a morning of it.
Yeah.
I was thinking if we wanted to do it, if we could do it Saturday morning, would be good for me, but also Sunday afternoon. So I'm up.
Let's put it in a planner.
Yeah.
It's done.
We're going to force Saturday, but other than that, I'm free. So see, she's thinking. Mama said Sunday afternoon's better for her, so that's good for me. And then it looks like we could do Saturday morning. So it looks like those would be the two different times. Yep.
All right.
Four blocks from the courthouse, so you don't even have to leave your home.
She's like, you guys go ahead and stand out there in the rain. I'm going to pray from here.
Right, I'm going to pray from here, walkie-talkie. And,
well, hey, this is the kind of thing that we need to do, guys. Like, this is perfect example of like just getting together and moving forward with the kingdom. Somebody had an idea, we roll with it, you make it happen, and you move forward. Like, this is what we want to see. But yeah, man, 2 hours went by already. I'm not gonna keep you up any later tonight, Russ. I know I got another 10-hour day tomorrow and for Friday. So,
Yep.
man, it's been a great conversation. I hope everybody in the chat enjoyed, and everybody that's going to be listening and post. It's been an awesome show, just chit chatting with you. We didn't have anything real specific to talk about tonight. Just kind of wanted to throw some things out there and talk about some different things, but that's what SITREP's always been. So we got something planned, right? We just threw it together, right?
Yeah. Well,
So,
that's the way it should be, for the glory of God. So,
Right.
if you don't mind, I'd like to close in prayer.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
then we get out of here.
Yeah.
Anybody in the chat, if you want to pray along with us, we definitely encourage that. And in the future, if anybody has any prayers or anything, if they want to throw those in, we'll include those. We'll start doing some more regular praying here. So, Heavenly Father, just want to thank you for this opportunity for us to get together this evening, for us to talk about you and talk about your your goals and how to help us walk in this world. Um, Father, thank you for the encouragement to get us together down in Franklin and get us together praying and to love and worship you together as a church family and to help be part of the body and to see its movement in our local communities. Father, thank you for the opportunities you've given, bringing me on here with Aaron and helping me to grow and stay inspired and to continue to light this flame. Father, thank you for everybody that came on here tonight and for anything they contributed and hopefully, your spirit has gone out from just this humble broadcast and it'll have a ripple effect on other people that get to catch this show. That we can start moving forward and bringing your glory into this world like it's never seen before or like it's been dormant for a very long time, Father. We hope to make some movements and definitely create some waves. We just hope for your kingdom to be brought here even as best it can before the Messiah returns. That we can walk in faith with you, Father. That we can build bonds and relationships for you and for your kingdom. Father, and that you'll help us grow as men and as fathers, sisters and brothers, that you'll help us to make an impact on our families and our extended families and friends and coworkers. Father, that you break us down and you tear away the things that cling us to this world, that you defeat addictions and that you defeat just anything that pulls us away from you, Father. We love you so much, and we're so happy and glad that we're able to serve you and that you've been patient with us and kind with us, and that you love us so much that you never give up on us, Father. In the name of your Son, Yeshua. Amen.
Amen. Guys, thank you again for tuning in. Thank you for watching the show. Again, share it out social media. Share it out to your groups, whatever you guys want to do. Let's try to get the word out. Again, any things that you guys come up with that you might think you would like to see go forward with the show, or any kind of cool ideas or some stuff you'd like to see that God's been calling you. Hey, like, I need some help with this. I need some ideas. Put it down in the comments below. Don't forget, like and share. If you guys aren't already subscribed to Take on the World TV, make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel. But we love you guys. May Yah bless and keep you guys as we go through, and you guys have a blessed week. And we'll see you again next Wednesday. But we love you guys. Have a good night.